has also conducted sessions at ICAI. Further, I would like to request our students to grab this opportunity and take benefit and guidance of how to apply a subject in practical life. Now, I would like to request our today's esteemed speaker, Rajan sir, to take the charge of the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, hi, good evening all. And Heathel, thank you so much for that introduction. And I would like to thank Thane branch for giving me this opportunity on this wonderful subject of auditing, which is for the intermediate as well. And I think intermediate is the start level where you understand what is audit is all about. That's the start point, I believe. From there is what your career goes into a core profession called auditor. So from there we'll get into this. So I'll first share my screen and then let you know what I'm going to cover today. Yeah. Is my screen visible to all? Yeah. Is my
Yes,
screen
sir.
visible? Yeah.
Yes, sir. We can see your
Yeah. Okay.
screen.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get into this auditing and assurance MTP for the intermediate of November 2020. And before getting into the slide and other things, I just want to just give a caveat about what I'm going to discuss. The views or the subject, whatever I'm going to discuss today, and what are all the informations which I'm going to share or give you an input saying that this is important from an exam perspective and all those things is only an interpretation or my personal view. It's only my personal and professional view, nothing to do with the institute view or the committee of the institute, or nothing is acknowledged by institute, because I'm part of the institute as a member. So I'm saying this is only my professional and personal view, nothing to do with any committee of the institute or any part of the institute prescription or the publication. So with that, we'll get into this. So this is the topic or the agenda which I'm going to cover. We'll discuss about what are all the important topics which is required for November 2020. We will also discuss about what are all the past mistakes which the students have done in the examination. We'll discuss about auditing standards for about 30 minutes, because I believe that's most important for everyone, and that carries a lot of value in the examination. Then we'll discuss about basic risk assessment topic and audit report. Then I'll tell you how to prepare for the examination the day before the examination and for next 10 days, whatever is available with you. Then the last 15 minutes and next 15 minutes will take up for RTP of November 2020. And I will also tell you how to take up your experience, whatever you have gathered by reading it till date of your auditing. So I'm sure there will be a lot of people who have will be eligible for May examination or who are eligible for November examination. So with that, we'll get into this. So the important topic for November 2020 intermediate auditing. And before getting into this, any questions anywhere, you can stop me and ask me the questions. We'll take it up. Or if you want to accumulate the question and ask me at the end of the session, I'm okay with any of these options. So these are all the important topics from a November 2020 exam perspective. The first one is about the nature, objective, and the scope of the audit. The second one is something to deal with audit strategy, planning, and program for audit. The third one is about the heart of the audit. This is called the heart of the auditing, which is audit documentation and audit evidence. The last one is the audit report, which is the final report, which is the final wording which you give as an auditor after carrying out the audit engagement. So these are all the important topics for November 2020 examination. So in my personal view, the nature, objective, and scope of audit has been tested in the past for about 15% of your total examination, total 100% of your mark. 15% goes to this nature, objective, and scope of audit. The next 15% goes for your planning and programming. And audit documentation, audit evidence has been tested for close to about 30 to 35% of your mark, and audit report has been tested for another 15%. So this is the way in which it goes. Basically, 15% for your basics of what is audit, what is the auditing standard is all about, what is accounting standards, and all those things. The next 15% goes for your strategy, planning, and programming, which is your initial stage of the audit. The next 30 to 35% goes for your entire audit program process, what you do in the audit, the documentation, the evidence, what you collect during the audit. The next 15% goes for your audit report. So this is how the exam question paper has also been structured. And now from this attempt, you have this MCQ also, which has been part of your paper. So even in MCQ, you will have the same kind of weightage which will go through. So these are all the important topics, and within this, I request everybody who is attending the session, who is going to take up examination now, please go through the institute prescribed study material, the institute prescribed suggested answer, and your revision test paper. So I always believe my strategy for the examination has always been like this: at least the past 6 or 7 attempts of the suggested answer, 6 or 7 attempts of the revision test paper, and 6 or 7 attempts of the mock test, which is being carried out by the institute. You have to go through and then ensure you have some clarity on the paper before going to the examination hall, because that will help you to understand three things. One, from the suggested answer you can understand in what way the examiner or the institute is expecting an answer from you. What is the presentation which you need to do in examination? Because whatever you write or whatever you do in your 3 hours for 100 marks will be evaluated by the examiner is only by 20 minutes, because your 3 hours is being evaluated only in 20 minutes. Within the 20 minutes you are required to impress him, you are required to convey the information to him, and you are required to prove your knowledge level, that is your skill set level, saying that you have the technical knowledge on the subject. So the most important thing to do all these three is within 20 minutes is to ensure that whatever you are giving in the answer paper has been presented in the way in which the institute wants. So please kindly go through the suggested answer of last 6 to 7 attempts, so that it helps you to understand the presentation model and the way in which you have to give your output. All of you is, by going through all these things, you will get to know what is being tested by the institute repeatedly, what are all the areas in which the students are making mistake. So you can understand, saying that these are all the areas in which students are making mistake, which you should not repeat. You as a student should not repeat that, so that you can get good score in your examination. The third one, which will come up after reading all this for you, that is the suggested answer, the revision test paper, and the mock paper, is for you to understand and get a feel, saying that how this attempt of question paper is going to be, how you should be prepared for your examination, so that you can face the examination for 3 hours together. So it will give you a feel of the examination and the feel of the institute question setting pattern. So with that, I think these are all the things which you need to keep it in your mind while preparing for the examination. I think you would have done all this. So this is only a revision model. So I just request all of you to go through this so that it helps you to write your examination well. So the next slide which I wanted to deal is on the past mistakes. The general mistakes which has happened in the past has been that auditing paper normally carries a question which includes question from the Companies Act, which includes question from the accounting standards, apart from the auditing standards and the auditing topics. So generally, if you read the past examination comments, past examiner comments, students have been making mistakes in the Schedule 3, which is your Companies Act presentation of the financial statements. Students have been making mistakes on the interpretation of the company law when you are required to answer in your auditing paper. And people, that is the students, have been making mistakes in the risk assessment chapter of the auditing and also the audit report. So if I have to give you a glimpse of or a heads up on what all the mistakes which students have been doing is, first one is on the Schedule 3 format of the financial statements and the wordings of the financial statements. So students have been making mistakes on the structure, where the non-current asset should go. What is the definition of the current asset? What is the definition of the non-current asset? What is the definition of current liability? What is the definition of non-current liability? How to assess the useful life of the fixed asset? What are all the areas in which judgment will be taken by the management? What are all the areas in which your estimate has been made by the management? What are all the areas in which you have to be more skeptical as an auditor? So these are all the areas in which institute has been testing in the past, and people have been trapped to those areas as well. So I recommend everybody to go to the institute website, go to the old syllabus, because in the new syllabus it is not there. Go to the old syllabus link. You will get something called as examiner comments, summary of examiner comments. for last 6 or 7 attempts. Please go through those along with the question paper so that you can understand what are all the mistakes which students have made in the past, so that you can avoid that to secure more mark in this examination. So with that, I'm just straight away getting into the revision model for the auditing standards. So first one, on the auditing standard, I'm going to discuss about the nature and the objective of an audit. So basically the nature and objective of an audit, the overall objective of an audit is first one, to obtain the reasonable assurance, because you as an auditor is issuing an audit report where you are saying you are giving a reasonable assurance. You are giving a reasonable assurance on the financial statement, and you are saying the financial statement is free from material misstatement, is free from material misstatement. So the overall objective of the auditor is to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to obtain the reasonable assurance, to give an opinion saying that the financial statement gives a true and fair view and it is free from material misstatement. So this is what is the overall objective of the audit. And you as an auditor is independently examining the financial information of the entity, and you are not taking into consideration whether it's profit oriented or not profit oriented, whether it is, you're not considering its size, legal form, and all those things, because you as an auditor is supposed to carry out an audit as per the framework within which you are required to audit. It can be a framework of Companies Act 2013. It can be a framework of Income Tax Act 1961. It can be a framework for a special purpose in financial statements. So it can be any framework, any responsibility. Within that is what you're carrying out an audit. And generally, your opinion on the financial statement is to give a reasonable assurance and to say that the financial statement is giving a true and fair view and is free from material misstatement. So this is what it is on the first point. The second point which I wanted to tell all of you is about the audit strategy, planning and programming, which is the next part which I wanted to discuss, which is very key in any audit. Any audit, when you start an audit, the first step for an audit is planning. First step for an audit is planning. So how do you go about on each and every step? You will first look at what is the nature of the client. You will do a risk assessment in the acceptance of the audit. Your first step is to accept the audit. So you will do a risk assessment and then see whether you can accept the audit. The next step is to identify what is your scope of the audit. So you will go to the client and get an engagement letter signed from the client saying that this is the scope of the audit. The next one is to understand what is the report which you are going to issue in an audit. What type of report? Is it SA 700 report, or is it a special agreed upon procedure report, or is it a limited review report which covers under SRE 2400 or SRE 2401? What type of audit report you are going to give? That is the next step you will understand. The first step is acceptance of the audit. The second step is understanding the engagement. Third step is understanding the report which you are going to give. From there, you will go and do a risk assessment. You will first understand what are all the significant factor which is there in that engagement, which you as an auditor should tell the engagement team. What are all the preliminary activities which you as an audit team has to do? Your preliminary analytical procedure, inquiry procedure, what are all you need to do? From there, you will go and ascertain what is the audit procedure you are going to do, what is the time which you require for doing an audit, who or all will be part of your audit team. So this is your set of audit strategy, planning and programming, which you will do in the first step of audit. So this is what is covered as part of your SA 200 as well. And this is there as part of your auditing study material as well, which says what is your step-by-step approach in audit strategy, planning and programming. So if a question comes which asks you, what are all the steps which you'll do in an audit strategy, planning and programming? So in establishing the overall audit strategy, the auditor should, that is auditor shall identify the scope of the engagement. Then auditor should ascertain the reporting objective. Auditor should consider the significant factor in directing the engagement team's effort. Auditor should consider the preliminary engagement activities, the results of the preliminary engagement activities. Then auditor should ascertain the nature, timing, and extent of resource required for the engagement. So this is the answer which you will give for a question. which asks you about audit strategy, planning, and programming, because this is very critical. And if you look at international standards or the Indian standards, there is a lot of stress today on the audit strategy, planning, and programming. And every audit actually takes 25 to 30% of their time only in planning and programming, because once you plan, then you will execute properly. Anything which is planned and executed properly will give you a good result. So planning is very critical for you to do a good execution. So this has been repeatedly tested in the examination for you to answer. So in my personal view, this is one of the area which will be again tested, because that is more critical in any audit. So please kindly read in detail audit strategy, planning, and programming. Yeah. Okay. The next one which I wanted to brush upon is about the audit documentation and audit evidence. So audit documentation per se is the most important step in an audit. Once you determine what is the nature of procedure which you're going to do, you will get to the audit field, you will go to the client and start with the audit, you will execute the audit procedure. As part of your audit procedure, as part of your audit, you are required to periodically simultaneously do the documentation, simultaneously do the documentation as part of your audit activity. So documentation is something which is more critical step in any audit. So which is most important for you to protect yourself as an auditor, for you to protect yourself as an auditor. So first, to give an heads up, as an auditor, your audit report will say, will want you to say that you have obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence. So what is called as sufficient appropriate audit evidence? That is the key mother or the key word or the heart piece of the entire audit report. And that is going to be the entire life of an auditor. Obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence, obtaining sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. And for everybody who is in this session, my sincere request is, you guys have to verbatim reproduce the wordings what is there in the standards on auditing. You cannot write your own language. You will have to verbatim reproduce. For example, if there is a risk assessment, you will have to say inherent risk, control risk, detection risk. What is inherent risk? What is control risk? What is detection risk? You will have to reproduce what is there in the auditing standard. You cannot write on your own, otherwise you don't get any mark in the examination. So don't try to write, act on your own. Don't try to write standards on your own. Just go through what is there in the study material, reproduce. But that doesn't mean that you will mug it up. That doesn't mean that you will mug it up. You will read it once, you will not understand. You will read it twice, thrice, you will understand, and then you will write it in the examination. And my next suggestion to everybody who is in this meeting is, if a particular topic in an audit has 12 to 13 points, please read all the 13 points. That particular area could be tested for 2 marks, or could be tested for 5 marks, or could be tested for 7 marks. If it is for for 2 marks, you are required to write 2 or 3 points, no problem. If it is tested for 5 marks, you are required to write 6 or 7 marks, 7 points. If it's tested for 7 marks, you are required to write 13 points. But if you ask me whether it is practically possible for you to remember the entire 13 points, yes. Because in the examination hall, once you start writing, you will write 5 or 6 points, then you will get struck. But the moment you start writing the 6th point, your brain has been activated in such a way that you will be able to recollect the rest of the 5 points, because that's how we have been studying in the school days also. For example, in the school days, when you study tables 2 into 2 4, 2 into 3 6, you immediately don't go and apply it. You will be reading 2 into 2 4, 2 into 3 6, 2 into 4 8, and in an examination automatically you will get to write that. So the same way you read this, you will be able to write it in the examination properly, and try to put the wordings what is there in the auditing standards, accounting standards, or in the company law, because this is one of the paper where they can test you on any subject what is there in your inter syllabus. I can test you on auditing standards, I can test you on accounting standards, I can test you on company law, I can test you on income tax act, I can test you on indirect tax, I can test you on all the 7 papers within this one paper. So this one paper carries a lot of weightage, and this is your heart piece in your profession. So now coming back to this topic of audit evidence, as I said, obtaining sufficient appropriate audit evidence is very key in every audit, and that is more important for the auditor. So auditors should obtain documentation as part of the audit. They need to identify. So if any question comes, what is the audit documentation summary is all about, you as a student has to write that auditor is required to consider for obtaining audit evidence during the course of the audit, and auditors should obtain audit evidence for the significant matter identified during the audit, and auditors should document how they have addressed the significant matter which they've identified during the audit. For example, the significant matter in that year in an audit could be purchase of a plant and machinery or purchase of land and building. What could be the audit evidence? If they give you a case study, what could be the audit evidence? The audit evidence could be for land and building is the title document, is the evidence for registration, evidence for making payment, and then availability of the physical evidence saying that the land and building is available, going through the fixed asset register, ensuring that the value what is capitalized in the books is as per AS 10 or in AS 16, and then ensuring saying that the depreciation what they've carried out is appropriate. So these are all the things which you need to get ensure, and you need to get it documented in your work paper. And the next one, the question always comes up on the ownership of the audit documentation. So normally they will always ask you a question, who is the owner of the audit document? If the client asks you the audit work paper, can you give it? If you go through SQC1, the standards on the quality control 1, it states that unless otherwise specified by the law or regulation, audit documentation is the property of the auditor. He may, that is, auditor may at his discretion make portion or extract from the audit documentation and can give it to the auditor or can give it to the regulator. If there is anything which is demanded by the law, you can share your audit work paper. Otherwise, you are not required to share your audit work paper. So normally this one question is being tested repeatedly. Who is the owner of the audit documentation? So as per SQC1, auditor is the owner for the audit documentation. He need not give it unless and until it is specified by the law. So ensure saying that this audit work paper and audit documentation is taken care. The second one, they always ask you how many years you need to retain the work paper. As per the Companies Act, you need to retain it for 8 years, and as per the institute regulation, you need to retain it for 10 years from the end of the audit. So from the date of your audit report, you need to hold it for 10 years. Okay, the next one is about audit evidence. So normally they ask you what is called as an audit evidence, or they give you a situation and ask you to discuss about what audit evidence you will obtain, or they will give you a case study and then ask you to reply saying that whether that audit evidence is appropriate for you to issue an audit opinion. So we'll first understand what is audit evidence is all about. Audit evidence may be defined as the information used by the auditor in arriving at the conclusion on which the audit opinion is based on. So which means you are arriving your opinion which is based on the audit evidence what you have obtained during the audit. So audit evidence includes both information contained in the accounting record as well as other information. For example, there could be an invoice, there could be a purchase order. All those are something which is part of your accounting information. There is something which is available in the public forum. Like for example, your income tax website, your traces website, your GST website, all those are other information which is outside your accounting information. So you as an auditor have to give an answer, or you as a student have to give an answer saying that audit evidence includes both information contained in the accounting record, which is the underlying for the financial information, which is nothing but your transaction, your journal, your ledger, your trial balance. So journal is based on some underlying evidence, or other information, which is your third party information like your website, government website, your company's website. All those things are third party evidences which is available for you. So you as an auditor is supposed to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. That is most important. What is sufficiency? What is appropriate? That is most important. Sufficiency is about quantitative relationship. Sufficiency talks about quantity of audit evidence. Appropriateness talks about quality of audit evidence. So sufficiency is something to do with quantity. So you as an auditor will decide whether how many samples I need to test based on my materiality, how many documents I need to get, how many evidences I need to corroborate. That is all quantitative factors. How many confirmations I need to circulate, all those things. Qualitative is something which is very important in your audit evidence. So, for example, the most important qualitative document in our given example. So, we started with an example of purchase of land and building. The most key evidence is approval of the board. The second key evidence is the land document. Third key evidence is payment. The fourth key evidence is bringing that inside the fixed asset register. The fifth key evidence is how they arrived at the useful life. These are all the qualitative evidence. The quantitative evidence is what copy you take. What are all the copies you take and keep it in the file is something quantitative. So any question which comes on the audit evidence, bear in your mind, it needs to address these 2 points. Any case law which comes in the examination which asks about audit evidence, keep these 2 points in your mind. You need to answer, you need to understand whether in that case study, the evidence which is obtained by the auditor is sufficient, whether the evidence obtained by the auditor is appropriate, then only you can go to the conclusion. So always remember, sufficiency of audit evidence, appropriation of audit evidence is the answer which you need to give in the examination, which you need to consider while answering any question relating to audit evidence in the examination. Okay. The next standard which I wanted to cover is about the external confirmation standard, SA 505. So external confirmation is part of the audit procedure, and normally in an audit evidence, as I said, internal evidence is something which is being retained by the management, which will give you a comfort, and external evidence gives you a larger comfort. External evidence gives you a larger comfort in any audit. That's why external confirmation standard gained a lot of popularity. And post Satyam fraud and recent corporate scams, external evidences are gaining lot of importance. So external confirmation procedure, in my personal view, is a standard which will be tested repeatedly in any given examination. So please go through that standard and that chapter very critically, because that will give you a good mark, maybe 5 to 7 mark in this attempt. So external confirmation procedure, what is external confirmation procedure? Determining what you determine in an external confirmation procedure is, you will first go and decide which are all the area in which you wanted to get an external confirmation. What are all the area in the financial statement is bank confirmation, debtors, creditors, advances to vendor, advance from supplier, your legal confirmation, your confirmation from the mutual fund investment, your confirmation from your any professionals which they've appointed in the company to handle legal, your income tax assessment and all those things. So again, I'm repeating, one could be bank confirmation, debtors, creditors, advances from the advances from customers, advances to vendors, legal lawyers, your investment bankers, mutual funds, your professionals. So you go and circulate the confirmation. So in the examination, you need to say, first of all, you need to determine what are the area in which confirmation should be circulated. Second step is to determine who are all the party for which you need to circulate confirmation. That is again driven by the materiality, what is set in the audit. What are all the key items for which you need to circulate the confirmation? What are all the additional samples you want to circulate? The next one is the confirmation format in which you wanted to send. The last one is, how do you send? When do you send? What do you send? To whom do you send? All these things. So let's understand these 5 questions, okay? What, when, where, why, and how. What you send is the confirmation. In which format you want to send is been already designed in the auditing standard. When you will have to set is the cutoff point. Is it for March closing balance? Is it for December closing balance? Is it for February closing balance? So when you will you circulate before the audit commencement? Will you circulate after the audit commencement? Will you circulate before issuing the audit report? Will you circulate after issuing the audit report? How will you circulate? Will you circulate through courier? Will you circulate through mail? Will you go directly and get the confirmation? All these things we will understand now. Okay. First one, why you will have to send a confirmation? Because that is an evidence which is reliable more than the internal evidence. When you will have to send the confirmation? Before issuance of the audit report. And you should get the confirmation response also before issuing the audit report. And any discrepancy between the information what you have asked for and what is confirmed should be reconciled before issuing the audit report. We have addressed about why, we have addressed about when, we have addressed now going to which confirmation, which are all the parties, which are all the bankers. So bankers normally you send 100%, mutual fund you send 100%, investment you send 100%, legal you send 100%. But when it comes to debtors, creditors, advances from customers, advances to vendor, you send key items which is based on your materiality. And you also send for 100% of parties where there is a legal problem. Whom you should send? You should send to that particular party. You need to ensure that the address to which you are sending is correct. How will you ensure? You will go to the latest invoice ensuring that address is correct, or you go to the GST portal ensure that the address is correct. How will you send? You will have to send it through a courier. If you are sending through a courier, track the courier evidence. If you are sending through a mail, you will have to send it to the authenticated mail. You cannot send it to Gmail or Yahoo or something. And the standard wants you to send a reminder if you are not getting a confirmation back. So these are all the procedure which you will do as part of SA 505. Now come to a time period. When you will have, what is the time period for which you will do a confirmation? Normally for cash and bank, for legal confirmation, you do it as of March balances. But when it comes to debtors, creditors and others, you can do for an interim period, which is December or February, and you can do something called as a roll forward procedure in an audit. So this is how your external confirmation procedure works. So what are all the type of external confirmation which is available in the standard? There is two type which is available: positive confirmation, negative confirmation. What is positive confirmation? Positive confirmation format is nothing but you will circulate the confirmation requesting the third party to reply whether he agrees or not. Even if he agrees to the number which you are saying, for example, if you are sending for a debtor saying the balance receivable as per the client's book is 1 crore rupee, you are sending a positive confirmation. The customer has to reply whether it is matching to his books or not. If it is matching, he will say yes, it is matching. If it is not matching, he will say no, my book is showing 90 lakh or 1.1 crore. That is positive confirmation. So positive confirmation is a request that the confirming party responds directly to the auditor, indicating whether the confirming party agrees or disagrees with the confirmation. So he will give you, whether he agrees or not, he will give you a response. Negative confirmation is something, a request that the confirming party responds only if the confirming party disagrees. So negative confirmation is a format where you are requesting the third party to reply only when he disagrees. For example, if your book balance of receivable is 1 crore and if his book balance is also 1 crore, he will not reply. But if it is 90 lakh or 1.1 crore, he will reply. The standard clearly says when you will have to use positive confirmation, when you will have to use negative confirmation. Positive confirmation can be used for any situation. Negative confirmation can be used only when the internal control is appropriate, only when the internal control is appropriate. Then what will you do when there is no confirmation which is being received? That is when you don't get a response. The standard talks about what are all the alternative procedure you are required to do. You are required to check the subsequent collection for customer, subsequent payment for the vendor, underlying invoices, underlying purchase order, your proof of delivery, all those things. If there is any exception which has been noted between the confirmation what you have got and what is there in the books, you need to reconcile. So to summarize, if there is any question which comes on the external confirmation, just remember this. You are required to first determine for which are all the area you have been asked in the question. If it is debtors or creditors or bank or debtor, or look at the case study. You will have to next evaluate whether the confirmation sample which is selected is appropriate as per the materiality standard. As per the materiality standard. Whether the format which the auditor has used as per SA 505. Whether he has sent appropriate address as per SA 505. Whether he has used positive confirmation or negative confirmation. If he has used negative confirmation, whether the internal control point has been addressed in the case study. If not, you go and write that in the answer. You will have to write that in the answer saying that what is your presumption in that given question. And go and read the case study whether there is a response which has been received or not. If there is no response, what is the alternative procedure which auditor has carried out? So you will have to read all this in the case study and give an answer. Okay, the next one we are going to deal is about the subsequent event auditing standard. Subsequent event, what is subsequent event? Subsequent event is something which is after the balance sheet date. Any event which is happening after the balance sheet date is called a subsequent event. So there is two time period, one from the balance sheet date to the date on which the board is adopting the financial statement. From the date of board adoption till the auditor's report date, post auditor's report date, there is 3 dates. One from the balance sheet date to board of directors report date, board of directors to auditor's report date, post audit report. So if there is any event which is happening between the audit report, which is between the balance sheet date and the board of directors adoption date, they will evaluate, the management will evaluate whether that is an adjusting event or a non-adjusting event as per the accounting standard, and then give the necessary accounting adjusting impact in the financial statement or give necessary disclosure. Then you as an auditor will start evaluating all the subsequent event from the balance sheet date till the audit report date, and then see if there is any material event which is being missed by the management, which they should adjust in the financial statement or give effect in the financial statement. Post auditor's report, if there is any material event which is cropping up, you will have to see whether you will have to give a note in the public forum, or whether you will have to withdraw the audit report, reissue the audit report, and all those things. And this particular question, this particular standard has a lot of importance for this examination, people. Remember, from March, the country is under lockdown, COVID. There are a lot of subsequent events which has happened in this year. In every financial statement, this subsequent event auditing standard has been given a lot of stress, a lot of importance. So you people can be questioned. For example, if there is any issue with respect to going concern due to COVID, if there is any issue with respect to cash constraint due to COVID, for example, inventory has not been sold subsequently due to COVID, what will you do? Fixed asset has lost subsequently due to COVID. There could be multiple subsequent events which can come out of COVID. So please read this standard. In my personal view, this standard will be tested minimum for 7 marks in this attempt. This standard has a lot of importance. Please go through this standard in light of COVID. In light of COVID, what are all the implications which has happened in the COVID light? Your market has fallen down, your price of the material has fallen down, somebody is unable to pay the salary, somebody is unable to pay the vendor, somebody is unable to collect, somebody has going concern issues. So this standard has a lot of importance in this examination because of COVID, Please keep that into consideration while preparing for the examination. The second standard, in my personal view, which is most important for this examination, is going concern, because this equally has a lot of importance because of COVID. Many entity had been facing problem, is still facing problem in their going concern because of COVID. So please go through SA 570 correctly. What the standard is called as going concern event, what are all the internal indicators, what are all the external indicators, what as an auditor you are required to obtain as an evidence, sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Please go through these two standards in detail. In my personal view, these two standards has to be gone through in full for you to take a lot of control in this attempt. I'm just opening the next one. You guys are able to see the PDF, right? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you guys are able to see the PDF which I've opened now?
Yes, sir. We can see the PDFs.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, guys, this is one of the material which I wanted everybody to go through. This is a material which has come out from the institute called as Referencer for Quick Revision for an intermediate course, account auditing and assurance. So whatever I've discussed so far is from this material only. So I request everybody to go through this material. So in this material, they have discussed about the auditor and the subsequent event. They have told what is the meaning of subsequent event. So as I said, any event which is happening from the date of the financial statement to the date of the auditor's report and fact known after the issue of auditor's report has to be considered. Objective of the auditor is to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence and then respond appropriately in the auditor's report. So what audit procedure you will obtain? What audit procedure you will carry out? You will obtain understanding of the procedure. You will do inquiry of the management. You will read the subsequent minutes. You will read the interim financials, whatever they have prepared, and then see whether it has any implication. So auditor's obligation regarding subsequent event is fact which is known after the date of auditor's report, but before the financial statements are issued. Fact which are known after the issuance of the financial statements. So you will have to see whether you get to know any information post issue of the auditor's report. If there is any information which you get to know post issue of the auditor's report, you will have to first go to the management, ask them what they have done. You will have to go to the management and ask them whether they have issued the financial statement in public. If they have issued, you need to ask them to recall and then reissue. If they have not issued, you will issue a revised auditor's report and then ask them to issue the financial statement along with the addendum to the main auditor's report. Okay. This is one of the standard which in my personal view could be tested for minimum 5 to 7 marks considering the COVID issue. Okay. So now let's move on to the risk assessment topic, which is a favorite topic for any examiner to test the inter-syllabus, because this is one of the core area which you will be using once you get into the articleship after completing your intermediate examination. Once you get inside your articleship, or anybody who is continuing their articleship after completing first group will be able to appreciate this standard much better, because this is one of the standard which any auditor will carry out in the audit and will be tested minimum 10 marks in every item. Minimum 10 marks in every item, this chapter will be tested. So risk assessment, internal control. First is audit risk. Second one is identifying, understanding the entity's environment, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement, then carrying out the relative procedure. So you will go and understand the auditing entity. You will carry out the audit risk. You will understand the auditing entity, carry out the audit risk, identify the audit risk, carry out the relevant procedure. So now I'm getting into the main one, which is again tested very frequently in any given attempt, is the auditor's report. Okay. So just to give a glimpse, what are all the type of audit report which is possible? Normally, when you go and see a movie, right? Let's understand, when you go and see a movie, somebody could come back and ask you, how was the movie? You will say, yeah, the movie is very good. I liked it. Everything was good. That could be one of the answer which is possible. The second answer which is possible is you can go and say, yeah, I like the movie except for this portion of the movie. You will say except for this portion of the movie. The third comment which you will go and give, which is possible, is you say, I don't like the movie is worst. Fourth one, you will say, I don't understand anything in this movie here. That is the four answer which is possible. First one, you will say it's very good, I liked it. Second one, you will say except for the villain portion or except for the comedian portion, you liked it. Third one, you will say, yeah, it is very worst, I don't like. Fourth one, you will say, I don't understand, I don't have any comments. So this is the fourth type of audit report which you will issue. The first one, I liked very much, unmodified report. Second one, where you say, except for this, I like, that is qualified opinion. Third one, you will say, I don't like at all, that is adverse opinion. Fourth one, you say, I don't understand, I am unable to comment, that is disclaimer of audit opinion. These are all the four things which is possible. So just remember this, you will be able to answer in the audit, because normally in the audit report, they ask you this question, what are all the type of audit report which you will give? So these are all the four different options which is there in the auditing standards: unqualified, qualified, adverse, and disclaimer. So normally the question comes up in the intermediate level on the objective of the auditor. So the objective of the auditor is, first one is forming an opinion and reporting on the financial statement. The second one is to clearly express an appropriate opinion. You have to express an appropriate modified opinion if there is any modification. So as we discussed, modification can be qualified, adverse, disclaimer. And if there is any emphasis of matter, you go and give an emphasis of matter. And if there is any key audit matter as per SA 701, you will go on this. So this is forming an opinion as per SA 700, issuing a modified opinion as per SA 705, emphasis of matter as per SA 705, and then SA 710, sorry, and then going ahead and communicating key audit matter as per SA 701. So this is what you are going to give. So let's understand certain definition which they might test you in the examination. Key audit matter. What is key audit matter? Key audit matter is the most significant matter from the audit of the financial statement for that current period and are selected from the matters which are communicated, those charged with governance. So just remember this definition. So key audit matter is nothing but whatever is the observation which you have in the audit. You will identify, and then you will go ahead and then select from one of those and then report it as key audit matter. So as I said, AC 700 is forming an audit opinion, SA 701 is key audit matter, 705 is modification, 706 is emphasis of matter. So just read the definition what is given in the auditing standard and then try to follow that while writing in the examination. Okay, let's straight away get into the different type of questions which I've seen in the past from an intermediate level. One of the questions which they ask you is, what are all the type of assurance which you as an auditor give in the audit report? So reasonable assurance and limited assurance are the two type of assurance which you give in the audit report. Reasonable assurance you give after carrying out a detailed audit as per SA 305. What is reasonable assurance? Reasonable assurance is the reduction in the assurance, is the reduction in the risk level. Assurance, reasonable assurance is the reduction in the assurance engagement risk to an acceptable low level in circumstances of an engagement as a basis of a positive form for expression of practitioner's conclusion. So reasonable assurance is nothing but you have obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence, your risk is mitigated or it is low, you go ahead and give a reasonable assurance in the audit report. A limited assurance you give for a listed entity quarterly report or when you have not carried out audit as per SA 305, 315, where you do only a limited assurance engagement. In a limited assurance engagement, you as an auditor will carry out inquiry procedure, analytical procedure, but you don't carry out a detailed risk assessment procedure. So limited assurance is the reduction of assurance engagement to a level that is acceptable, but where the risk is higher than for a reasonable assurance. It is higher for a reason, it is higher than the reasonable assurance level. So in a reasonable assurance, you go and say the financial statement gives a true and fair view and it is free from material misstatement. But in a limited assurance, you will say, I have carried out limited assurance and say that the financial statement is not materially misstated. But you will also say that had I carried out an audit, my opinion could be different. It's a negative assurance. So reasonable assurance is a positive assurance, limited assurance is a negative assurance. Remember that for the examination. And this particular slide, please do remember, because every time whenever they ask you to draft audit report or they ask you what are all the key elements of the audit report, normally I've seen they're asking key elements of the audit report for 5 to 6 marks or 2-mark question. So these are all the title or these are all the items which is there in every audit report. The first one is title. Title is nothing but independent auditor's report. The next one is addressee, which is nothing but to whom who has appointed you, shareholder or board of directors. The next one is the opinion paragraph, where you will go and say, I've carried out the audit as per this framework. I've carried out the audit of balance sheet, profit and loss statement, statement of cash flow, other comprehensive income, and then say whether it gives a true and fair view. That is your opinion paragraph. Basis of opinion, you will go and say what is the basis of opinion, where you will go and say I've obtained sufficient appropriate audit evidence based on which I'm giving an audit opinion. The next one is management's responsibility statement, where you will get say management is responsible for the preparation of the financial statement. Management has applied going concern principle. Management has carried out risk assessment procedure, and then that is the management responsibility. You will talk about audit responsibility, where you will say the auditor's responsibility is to plan and perform the audit as per the auditing standards, obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence, being skeptical. Other reporting responsibilities as per section 143, what are all the other reporting responsibilities? Then you will go and do the location of description of the other auditor's responsibility, where you will have to put it, which is after your emphasis of paragraph. Then you will go and put the signature signature in the audit report, place of the signature and the date of the audit report. Date of audit report is very critical. It should be only after the date in which the financial statement has been adopted by the board. It cannot be earlier than the date on which the financial statement has been adopted by the board. The place of signature is the place where you are signing. It can be different from the place where the management is signing the financial statement. And signature should be put by the auditor for and behalf of the basis on which he has been appointed. If he has been appointed as a firm, for example, if XYZ an associate has been appointed, they will say for XYZ and associates chartered accountants, this particular auditor is signing the auditor's report with the membership number and with the UDIN reference. So my simple suggestion to everybody here is, please remember this steps in the audit report: title, address, opinion, basis of opinion, management's responsibility, auditor's responsibility, other reporting responsibility, location of the other reporting responsibility, signature, place, and the date of audit report. Okay, so auditor's responsibility in the audit report is to exercise professional judgment, to describe an audit by stating the auditor's responsibility, to describe the auditor's responsibility in a group audit, and then you will have to talk about the evaluation of appropriateness of accounting policy, reasonableness of estimate, related party disclosure, and all those things. And key audit matter, all those things. So, what it is. Okay. So now we have come to a point where I want to spend some time on the exam preparation and then tell you how to go about with respect to your RTP. So as I said, your exam preparation, first ensure you are covering the 100% of your syllabus, 100% of the syllabus. And then my simple suggestion is, whatever I have practiced during my examination time is, I will make a summary of all the important definitions, all the important points in every chapter, and then call it as a library of important points, so that on the day before the examination, I will only go through it. For example, the list of points, whatever I showed for audit report, the list of points, what is important for audit documentation, the list of points, what is important for external confirmation, all those things. Next step which I did as part of my examination preparation is, I went through the suggested answer of earlier attempts, I went through the RTPs of earlier attempts, I went through the mock examination questions of earlier attempts. Wherever I made a mistake, I noted down, called as library of mistakes. I will say this question, this point, I made a mistake. So the day before examination, I can go through and ensure that I don't repeat those mistakes while writing in the examination. So please go through your institute study material, the questions within the institute study material, your revision test paper, your suggested answer, your practice manual if you're an old syllabus student, and present as per the suggested answer, and ensure you are covering at least 6 attempts of suggested answer, RTP, and mock test paper before going for the examination, so that in the examination you are very clear as to how to go about it. The next one, in an examination, the first 15 minutes of your examination is very important. Whatever they give you as the time before giving you an answer paper, they give you a question paper. So go through the question paper, identify what you know, what you don't know, how do you want to start it, how do you want to present it. Make a fullest utilization of that 15 minutes so that you can ascertain out of 100 marks how much you know, how do you want to present it, and then you will know at what speed you will have to write your examination. So make the fullest utilization and then prepare yourself within that 15 minutes to say how do you want to structure the answer, how do you want to design your answer paper, so that the 20 minutes of evaluation by the examiner of your 3 hours of answering is effective, so that you get a good mark in your examination. You get more than your exemption limit, more than your limit what you need for getting a rank and other things. Yeah. So let's now get into the revision test paper for this attempt. So this is your revision test paper. So the revision test paper is something which has been released for every attempt. So that is most important for everybody to go through. So I have gone through this revision paper personally for myself. So my suggestion is, you take up this revision paper, go through the areas where I'm highlighting now. The first one is the chapter 1, which talks about nature, objective, and scope of audit. Second one is documentation and audit evidence. Third one is risk assessment and internal control. Fourth one is analytical procedure. The fifth one is company audit and audit report. So go through in detail the entire RTP, because normally from the RTP, there are a lot of pickup questions which comes for 5 to 10 marks. Directly a pickup comes from 5 to 10 marks. So as I said, at the beginning of the session, your nature and objective of the audit. Your nature and objective of the audit covers about your 15% of your answer paper or your question paper. So please go through that. Your auditing strategy, planning and programming comes about 15% of your question paper. Audit documentation, audit evidence covers about 30 to 35% of your audit question paper. Audit report covers about 15% of your question paper. And this time, considering COVID, your auditing standard, personally, in my view, subsequent events, going concern, and your audit report gains a lot of responsibility. So surely there will be 10 to 15 mark in that area, and there will be a lot of pickup directly from the RTP for at least 5 to 10 marks. So please go through in this order. Please make effective utilization of your day before the examination by going through the suggested answer, RTP, your past mistakes, your library of important points, library of mistakes, and put yourself into the effective utilization of first 15 minutes of the examination. Go and write your examination well. Be safe and then write your examination, so that I believe it's more effective for you to get a good score, get a rank. And so that is what I wanted to say on this entire thing. Yeah, Heathal, we can take up questions if there is anything there. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So if there is any questions, we can take up at this moment.
Yeah. If anyone has any question, do let us know. I think, sir, there aren't any questions as such.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a concluding note which I wanted to tell is this particular publication from the institute, which has come as a referencer for quick revision, and the RTP, please go through it in detail before the examination, so that it helps you to crack the examination well and write the examination well. So that is what I want to tell. So that's it, Heathal. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So we are done with it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hello.
So yeah. I'm done with it. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Just a minute, sir.
Okay. Then I'll take over, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I am Sanika Naik, and I would like to
Yeah,
offer
hi.
a vote of thanks on behalf of the entire Thane Wicasa team. Firstly, sir, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule and guiding the students. This session started with important topics, then a quick overview of all the standards, then mistakes that could happen in exam, and then definitely the COVID point of view in the exam, which is necessary in these times. And I think there will be short questions on COVID, because these students will go in articleship and will have to deal with such situations. So institute will make sure that they test on these areas. And you also gave a quick reference of the RTP. Then my personal takeaway was the library of important topics and library of mistakes, because we go in exam and we're like, yes, I had done there wrong and this is my time to correct myself. So that was great, sir. It was an amazing session. I think students would have benefited a lot from this. I really respect your love for the subject and your overview for the subject and the teaching style. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. And one last point which I wanted to tell, after all this auditing standards on the subsequent event and other things, considering this COVID and the remote working, whatever we have been doing all these days, I expect a lot of questions which would come around on the auditing around the computer techniques and auditing within the computer techniques, because that is one of the area which is being used by all the auditors now, and there are a lot of questions which can happen on that. And a question which can happen on SA 501, special consideration of inventory count, because March audit report, I personally had a lot of challenges in signing on the existence of the inventory and existence of the fixed assets. So I just quickly summarize SA 505 external confirmation, SA 501 special consideration, your subsequent event standard, your standard which talks about going concern, and the chapter which talks about your risk assessment and auditing around the computer techniques is what I foresee, which could have a lot of importance in this examination because of the present situation which we are facing as a nation. So with that, I want to thank Thane branch again for giving me this wonderful opportunity of presenting myself with the people. And I always like the future generation or the competitors because they are always updated than us. We live with the experience and they give
Thank
us
you so
the
much, sir.
experience. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.